Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to this special meeting of the Tipton Community School Corporation. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Jason will be leading us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next on our agenda will be comments from the community, and that was signed up online, and we just had one from Laura Sitton.
I do appreciate the opportunity to say my piece before the vote on the shortened school day. I don't believe this should really be a hard vote, quite honestly, because the vast majority of teachers have already said no, and we need to listen to them. And reasons vary amongst the different schools because each school has a different role and a focus given the developmental phase of the students they provide education to. High school is different from middle school is different from elementary. And the vast majority of those teachers said no on the survey that they were asked to fill out because the school day looks different for each school. We already have a 40-minute each week PLC meeting where they can work together. We have staff meetings. We have meetings. The shortened day, not a lot can be accomplished in each class. It's shortened for all the classes for an entire day, and it eliminates one day during the week where teachers can meet one-on-one with those students after school for extra help because it's not a one-size-fits-all. Not all kids do well in group learning, and they do better in one-on-one. And every minute in class matters, and now we're seeking to eliminate hundreds of minutes in a class. So how many meetings are enough? Our kids are failing, and we're proposing shortening a school day. There's been mixed messages about needing to be in school, but yet proposing this. Parents thought that this was instead of e-learning days, and it's not, and I already spoke about that last week at the meeting. It was pointed out that Tipton has more time in school than others in our area, and that schools are doing it, et cetera, which raises another myriad. Then why are our kids failing? If this supposed extra time, is it being utilized to its fullest potential? How many additional meetings in combination with all the current ones are enough? Is it too much that it's impacting our teachers' ability to do their job, which is to educate our children, to fulfill our mission, which is to teach our kids to be career-ready, productive members of society? Prep time to do their jobs should never, ever be negotiable. It's why we're here. That is the focus of K through 12 is education of our students. And I honestly never thought that we would have to be here again advocating once again to have our kids in school. And the teachers have spoken and they said no. So I encourage you to vote no with them and demonstrate that you're listening and that the results and their feedback on the survey mattered. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Our next item is old business, and today we need to approve science curricular material adoption. The corporation selected science materials through the committee process under the coordination of Mr. Jaworski for curricular materials adoption. With changes in textbook policy, Indiana Department of Education encouraged schools to place the adoption on hold for a year until greater clarity could be found on the process. This winter, the adoption committee assembled again and are ready to make their recommendation. I need a motion and a second to approve the science curricular material.
I move to approve the science curricular material.
Okay, are there any comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. In our new business, the first item that we have tonight is to approve our property and casualty insurance and risk management premium quotes. In your packet is the school insurance summary review from USI Insurance Services. Our property and casualty is due for renewal this month. Our property and casualty increased 28,000 from 2023. This is due mostly to a jump of $14 million in our property value. This increase contributed to $20,000 of the increase. Equipment breakdown was less than 2023 by $222. Cybersecurity insurance, or Chubb, increased $3,238, and workers' compensation increased $25,680 over last year. The overall increase was $57,190, a 25% increase over last year. Tonight we have Mark Gary from our USI agent. He's here to provide some insight to our rate increases and answer any questions from the board. Before then, I need a motion and a second to proceed. Should say a motion to approve our insurance.
I move to approve our property and casualty insurance and risk management premium quotes.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Thank you so much for being here tonight. Just turned it off. Very good.
So you can, there it is. So thank you, board, for serving the community, youth. My wife's a school teacher, been 32 plus years, so I understand the time and commitment. Youth, so I appreciate the time and service you guys offer. So, does everybody have a copy of the summary? I'd like to go in a little detail to kind of explain what's taken place the last few years. On the top part, the property increase, 2 years ago, EMC came to us and wanted to increase your property values from 112 million to 149 million. That's a scheduled statement of values for all the buildings, condominiums. That was a huge jump. So we were able to negotiate with them. Let's take 2 years to step up to get the values where they need to be with the cost of materials, supplies, and so forth. So the last 3 or 4 years, the property market has just gotten killed with all the storms, so forth in the United States. Last year, there was $25 billion paid out in claims. So the property market has been extremely difficult with municipalities. So we were happy 2 years ago, they allowed us to step up the values over a 2-year period rather than taking that full jump in 1 year. So that, like you'd stated earlier, Jennifer, the 28,000 increase, 20 of that was for the property values. And last year, we bumped it up 14 million compared to the year before. As a whole, last year, your rate per 100 was 4 cents per 100. Our national average, or our statewide average, is 5.02%. This year, they renewed that at a 5.4 rate per 100. This year so far, with the schools that we've renewed in January, that's been anywhere from 6% rate up to a 9.7% rate. You're best in class with the condition of your buildings, with all the upgrades and things you've done in your building. So you're in a good class with the insurance companies. Now, you're seeing an increase and you're probably wondering, that doesn't make sense, but as the market as a whole, and we insure 20 to 30 schools in the state, so we have a team that benchmarks all of our rates. So when we go to the insurance companies, we try to negotiate with our analytics. And I just wanted to give you that where you compare with the rest of the state. So then the other thing I'd like to point out from your summary, the work comp payroll, you'll see it's estimated. So in October of 23, we had an audit done from the work comp carrier, which generated, what, a $17,000 bill. So that was for the period of 4/26 of 22 to 23. So in October, you got an additional bill of 17,000. Now, the question was, do we want to amend the current term? Well, if we would do that, that means you're gonna have another $17,000 additional bill for the current term. So we decided to do it, since we are already 6 months into the current term, rather than paying that twice, you would pick it up when the audit is completed, after this term is completed. So, in theory, that column of 2023, that work comp premium that I'm showing at 39,000, once the audit is completed, after the term is over, it's probably gonna be close to 57,000 for the current term on your payrolls. So if you would take that number once the audit is complete versus the renewal of 65,000, that's about an $8,000 difference. Once all the audits are completed and in-house. So, Brooke, were you able to review those audits on the payroll?
Yeah, so once I have 30, that's close. The disparity doesn't look quite as bad.
Yes, but we couldn't put it down there because the audit hadn't been completed, although we know where your payroll currently is kind of estimated at. So, so that kind of explains the big increase on the work comp side of things. We are bringing an alternative quote in on the work comp, which was going to save us $3,500. Current carrier was about $3,500 higher. On this proposal, after the deadline, we had a cyber quote presented to us from Travelers, which is about $1,500 savings. Exact same coverages, same deductible, same limit. So if you would want to finalize that. Before we sent this packet up, they presented it to us, which we told them they were too late, but it is not. I wanted to at least present that to you guys tonight. Alternative markets we went to on the package in the buildings. There was one carrier that that offered, but it was gonna be a 1% or 100,000 deductible for wind hail damage. So currently with EMC, we have a $25,000 deductible for a wind hail tornado that comes through. So when you look at the alternative quotes, that 1% with this big building and a replacement cost of $122 million, if you had a partial loss from a tornado and say it's a $30 or $40 million repair, 1% of that would be a $400,000 deductible. So I just feel EMC is a lot better program to maximize cutoff loss. So EMC, I anticipate next year it's going to bump that 25,000 retention up to 75,000, but they're making that effective 7/1 this year. So we came in before that and was able to negotiate keeping it at 25 compared to what they're wanting to get is at 75,000, and that's just for wind, hail, or tornado claims. So that's a little more detail on this summary that you see. Work comp. The experience mod that we put down in the note. What that is something that's put in through the Indiana Work Comp Bureau. Any insurance company, myself, anybody else, they've got to use that 1.40 mod. What that is a 3-year running total of your claims for work comp. Okay. Last year you had a 1.0, this year's a 1.41. That's a 40% increase just on the rate. Knock on wood, so far this year, we've had less than $1,000 in work comp claims. So next year, if we finish out the year next month or next week or so, If we turn in a claims of less than 1,000, we've projected your mod for next year going down from 1.41 to a 1.13. So again, they take the average, or they take the actual claims from the last 3 years. So this 1 year on that work comp rate, because of that 1.41 mod, that's going to go down next year as long as there's no major work comp claim in the next week. So that's good news. If we have another good year like we had this year, next year, that mod in 2 years will be 0.98. Now it's really getting back down to where, it's been the last few years. Again, that's something the Indiana Work Comp Bureau, all insurance companies got to report the claims, and it's based on your claims and your annual payroll. Glad to answer any questions if anybody.
One question that I had, maybe you stated it, and I missed it, but could you just speak into, like in our base rates for our property, how much per thousand did it go up?
It was last year a 4.4% rate. It's gone up to 5.4. Statewide, the average last year was 5.01. This year, the average so far is they've ranged from 9.4%, 6.4. You're the best so far in 24 with a 5.4 rate. Now, a lot of our companies, schools renew 7/1, so most of our schools will be coming on board 7/1. But overall, you're so far the best with all the schools, and we're one of the leading agencies that write schools right now. And the main reason is because of the new schools. A lot of the rural schools are getting hit a lot harder, or they have older buildings, they haven't been updated, and they're coming back and saying, hey, if you have a roof claim, it's ACV. They're going to depreciate the roof, things like that. But you're not in that situation.
I don't think it'll ever make sense to me. But, we had a property increase of 14 million or 18 million and got an 11% increase. This year we've had a 14% or $14 million increase. We get a 25% increase. So that to me doesn't make any sense. And the 1.7 additional in workman's comp is not enough to drive that additional premium. I just think from my perspective, as a company, you did $2.8 billion last year at 14% net income, which is $350 million in profit, which is roughly 29 million a month in profit. I just have a hard time getting this kind of rate increase with our claim history and the renovations that we've done to the building, and I just don't think we've had enough chance to shop it. And now we have to vote on it and pass this along to our consumers. And I just, I want the public to know that this is, I don't think, this is not driven by our property value all the way. It's not driven by our revenue or by our workman's comp all the way. And that's an egregious profit, especially for a public entity like us, trying to provide quality care to our buildings and that kind of thing. So, and it is what it is. We can't not have it. But
We looked at alternative markets. We went to them and we got the rate per 100. So again, with a bigger agency, we did have the resources to look at the replacement costs that the companies are offering. And we gave, a little pushback with, hey, I think that's too high. And we had numbers to back it up to try to bring it in a little lower, even though I know it's a big increase. So. Would you like on the cyber with
See if we can save $1,500. That's something.
Cost savings is always,
And you do suggest the work comp that was 3,500 less than the incumbent work comp carrier. Okay. So we'll proceed that if you gave it a favorable recommendation and maybe some paperwork that you cover next.
So much for
Thank
bringing
you.
that. Okay. All those in, any other comments? All those in favor of approving our property and casualty insurance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Next, we need to approve the 1003 waiver for weekly early release. During the work session on April 9th, Mr. Jaworski presented information regarding a weekly early release on Wednesdays at 2:30 during the 2024-2025 school year. The first step in the approval process is for the Board of Trustees to pass a resolution outlining the requested waiver. We will forward the approved resolution to the Indiana State Board of Education for their approval sometime in June. We are recommending approval of the resolution granting Tipton Community School Corporation a 1003 waiver for an early release on Wednesday afternoon starting at 2:30 for the 2024-2025 school year. Can I please have a motion and a second to approve the waiver?
I move to approve the 1003 waiver for weekly early release.
Questions and comments?
I know that I've stated this in an email to the board, but I have a hard time making the lift for our families to have both professional development days and weekly early release. And this year, attendance has been on the forefront of monthly conversation, a huge impact or huge focus and work push by our admin to get our children in the building. And post-COVID, we learned during COVID, our kids need to be in the building. They need to be here. And when they're not here, we don't know what it is that's going on with them. So for me, this early release, although I see all of the benefits that Mr. Jaworski has laid out, and there are many, and I've spoken to teachers and read the survey results, and we can't argue that the benefits for more time for our teachers to collaborate would be beneficial. But for me, the students being out of the classroom is at a higher cost than it is for our teachers to, or not for our, to me, it just doesn't make sense. They'll say it like that.
I agree with Amber, and I was kind of hoping that the survey would kind of be unanimous one way or the other. I don't think they were, at least in the high school and the middle school, the staff didn't want it, and that was kind of overwhelmingly, but the community wasn't strong enough for me to kind of feel positive about it. And I agree with Amber that we have been preaching that in school, and then we're now advocating for them to be out.
And I can echo their comments. I feel pretty much the same way.
The question I failed to ask last week was, we talked about why the schools we looked at were doing morning versus afternoon. We discussed that, and then Mr. Jaworski and I discussed how would we know if it was successful test results. What I should have followed up asking was, have we looked at the test results of those schools that are doing this? How long have they been doing it, and have they gotten test results that show a benefit? I would need that evidence before I pulled the trigger on this.
I would say that, Western has had it for a period of time, and they lead the area as far as their, looking at iLearn. I can't might say,
Oh, sorry about that. Didn't realize that wasn't on. As far as the other schools, I would have to look.
Yeah.
But I do know that.
I know they're,
anecdotally
they
from
do
what
very
I've-
well, but have they
Yeah.
always done very, like, I'd like to know when they started
I
it
think-
and,
I think they've always had pretty strong data.
Yeah.
Whether that is a correlation between PLCs or not, I don't know.
that's something I'd like to know.
I get that. I do.
I think my big thing, not only the parents, but the teachers need to collaborate, but I got to look into the high school schedule, you know, they're on a block 4 schedule. That's 45 minutes a week out of the same class. That's a lot of time taken out just for the high school, not only in the younger kids as well, but high school, that's huge. You're missing a lot in 45 minutes. So I find it hard to say yes to this, for sure. Anything else? Okay.
Right. All those in favor of approving the 1003 waiver for weekly early release signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you. All right, next is to approve the 2024-2025 preschool plan. In the April board meeting, Tipton Elementary School administrators and district administrators presented information regarding changes in the 2024-2025 preschool offering. The changes are included in the proposal included in this packet. For the 2024-2025 school year, the elementary school will have 2 one-half-day developmental preschool classrooms and 1 full-day preschool class. If we have enough interest, we will add another full-day class. Cost for private pay families is $125 weekly or $25 per day for full day and $75 weekly or $15 per day for half day. Need a motion and a second to approve the 24-25 preschool.
I move to approve the 2024-2025 preschool plan.
Second.
Okay, questions and comments?
I did have just one question. You said like 3 years ago you started this and it had no effect on the budget because of the parents paying and some other funds we had available. But then if we went to full day, I can't find in my notes or your presentation, like, and I know we don't know how many kids will sign up for full day, but an estimate on what this costs and where does that come from?
we roughly estimated it be around between $34,000. Thank you.
Okay, I was thinking
Out of-
30,000.
out
but I
of
couldn't
the,
find
yeah,
that in the-
out of education fund, if we didn't, if the tuition and everything was not, working out like we thought it would, if we get more kids, I think it can be self-supportive. It's just going to be a little tight. But again, it can be supporting, which is really what we wanted it to do in the first place.
Right, and that was how you explained it. Was,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
So that's what makes me nervous, is a program that
agree.
didn't cost us any money, now it costs us a little money, and we are a government entity, and we know where those programs go once they start
Right.
costing money. That makes me a little gun shy on,
I do think it will
doing
assist us by requiring everybody that enrolls or wants to be part of it to apply for the On My Way pre-K. The more kids that we can get through that funding stream would benefit us.
and the kindergarten roundup is,
Tomorrow, and then we do our preschool meetings. Yeah.
But
So-
did you have something that?
Mhm.
So we're actually helping cover, I'm hoping, I mean, if you guys obviously don't have to buy that, we're helping cover that cost, if you guys have to. I don't know if you say, a lot of these lost, hopefully we're also cover some of that.
okay, I just want some clarification on that,
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
couldn't piece it back
Yeah.
together from,
There's potential, and where, if we get into that, then that's a conversation we'll have, so that you're aware that that's in, that could have an impact. But again, my goal would be that, we have the 2 full day and that, it's supporting itself. So we'll just try to hope that will happen. And again, just, in our processes with budgeting and everything, we will probably prepare for the worst in that situation. But hope that doesn't happen.
I think too, although can't assign a number to it, for every student that we bring in as a pre-K student and get comfortable in our building, they become part of our school community.
Agreed.
So if we are able to attract pre-K students into our school system to be here, the program may not pay for itself, pan out right away, but we're building our student body numbers, replenishing our student body numbers through this program, or has the potential to.
We'll know very soon how many people are really interested, right? Because you're gonna ask them that at the roundup, like what they're.
And I don't know, there's been a pre-registration, is there?
We've done it previously in the past,
Okay,
but since the requirement of grant is on my way,
okay,
they can apply currently, but it would be approved until June or so.
okay,
So we were gonna wait to officially accept them until after.
okay,
Those children guarantee 5%. If they're on my way. And really, they're the lower income kids that you're trying to get, those ones that need more help.
Great.
They're the ones that struggle, K through 12, it's like, they're all in one.
Yep.
So.
And did I hear, I thought I heard that she was new, one of the teachers, Spanish speaking as well.
yes, and
I think it's amazing.
she does a great job. I mean, which is really beneficial for us, particularly, with our ML population and how it's growing. So, very good.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. That, all those in favor of approving the 2024-2025 preschool plan signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Lastly, we need to approve our calendar with 2024-2025 10-03 waiver days. In the last Indiana State Board of Education meeting, our 10-03 waiver for 3 professional development days was approved. Attached is a 2024-2025 calendar that includes those days. Need a motion and a second to approve the calendar for 2024-2025 10-03 waiver days.
I motion to approve the calendar with the 2024-2025 waiver days.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
And we will add in the prom date. We're still waiting on confirmation on that, so that will be added at some point. That's typically an e-learning day.
Does anyone have any other matters to come before the board this afternoon? Then with that, I need a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
I move to adjourn the meeting this evening.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you for joining us for our meeting. Have a good rest of your day.
Well, I know that we had some tough decisions to make, and I know that I know that took a lot, and there's been a lot of discussion, and I do appreciate that. So thank you very much.